Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are you? Thank you once again to everybody for sharing such meaningful responses, encouraging me to continue these nightly vlogs. So I've been asked the question repeatedly by many of you, how am I doing? How are my Seder's? How's the family? How are you managing? And I do the Jewish thing and I ask them in return the exact same question. They go, I asked you first. I said, but I want to hear. And the common denominator between the two, special and different. It's unique what we're experiencing, it's special, but it's also different. No one's really experienced it before, and please God won't experience anything like this again. But I'm done. And I understand when each one of you tell me you're done too. If I hear the word Netflix, social distancing, Zoom, TikTok, no, genug, as we say in Yiddish. We're all at our wit's end. It's a lot. But in order to get a perspective, and I've shared on this before, but I'm going to take it a little different avenue tonight because I can bring in a nice Dvar Torah nicely and gel it into the theme of this evening. If I asked you a question, date back not 400 years, not 900 years, not even 1,000, 2,000 years of our history. Date back 70 years ago. What did your Bobby and Zadie's, your grandparents, great-grandparents, have to sacrifice when they were asked to quarantine? They were asked to have no food, no shelter, no home, emotional separation from their family, go into hiding, fear every day of whether or not they will survive, disease, illness. And they didn't do it for one day, a few days, a few weeks, months. They did it for years. Conversely, we've been asked to stay home, temperature, climate controlled, Wi-Fi full base communication with every and anybody we want in the world. We have the ability to have our food delivered to our homes. We have the good fortune of not having to physically see sometimes our co-workers or bosses or rabbis who just ramble on. So why are we at our wits' end? What's so distressing for us? If we take a look at just 70 years ago and think about, maybe today we can appreciate that much more what they went through and how they struggled. I certainly can, thinking about what it means to be quarantined for a month or two versus the years that they experienced that terror. You know what? Let's not take that many years ago, 70. Let's try 20 years ago. Who remembers Y2K? Armageddon, end of the world, Y2K, wiped out. We all stacked up, but I was thinking back today, what did we have in those days? Or rather, what didn't we have in those days that we have today? Well, most homes barely had internet. No cell phones individually. That was one of my first cell phones in 2001 or 2. It was a Nokia 300. I was so hip. I could type 300 characters a day and not be charged extra. I could speak 300 minutes a week, depending which zip code. And that's before Nextel came along and really taught me that I was even hipper than I could even imagine. Today I say these words to my kids. The only word of hip is maybe a little beard for a hipster. I mean, like, you ask yourself, even 20 years ago, AOL, remember 14.4 download, slow downloads. 20 years ago, we didn't have the ability to have our kids schooled from home, work from home, interact with every and anyone in our families. So why is it so difficult for us? So to answer this question, I'm going to share with you a beautiful Dvar Torah that tonight is the 4th night of the Omer. The Omer was a barley offering by the Jews to God in the times of the temple, and it was between the period of Pesach and Shavuot, Passover and Shavuot, the holiday of receiving the Torah. Now, what's remarkable is, I'm going to ask you this question and just think for a moment, just the first answer that comes to your mind. Do not Google or even research. Think it through too hard. Do you count up in life or count down? I repeat, do you count up in life or do you count down? So when I ask myself the question, there's no doubt that most of us count down. How many days left till vacation? How many days till a milestone in our family? How many days until get my bonus? How many hours till Yom Kippur is over? How many minutes more the rabbi is going to keep just schmoozing and talking us through this holiday service? Everything's counting down. Countdown to when NASA takes off the rocket ship. Countdown to a new year. When do we count up? Not that often. Things that aren't necessarily so pleasant. Our age, calories, our weight. I'll stop there. What's the difference between counting up and counting down? So I read this beautiful line, and it goes as follows. When I count up, I am motivating myself on how much I have achieved. But when I count down, I'm motivating myself on when the suffering will end. How many of you have turned to me and say, Rabbi, how long? Our focus is on counting down. How long do we have? How many more? Comes along the Torah, and the Torah says, don't do that. If you want to learn what it means to be a sacrifice, to give of yourself, to get closer to humanity, get closer to your religion, get closer to God, if you want to know how to achieve that, then the Omer is one of the only mitzvahs in the Torah in which we count up. Each day, first day, second day, third day, till the 49th day, reaching the highest level of 50th day of receiving the Torah. So when we view this quarantining as being counting down how many days left, it's never soon enough. Another week. In France, it just extended another month. Are we going to have another 6 weeks? But if you take a look from a perspective of counting up, think about it. Such a beautiful message. Counting up, counting from each day that I've been quarantined. What are the silver linings that I've had? Well, you know what? I've done 1,000 jigsaw puzzles, and before I never played with anything that didn't have batteries or recharges. I spent time with my children. I spent time with my spouse. I spent time with self. I got good sleep. I think I mentioned this before. I've never slept so much as I've slept over the last week, and I've never been more tired. How ironic is that? Think about it, what the blessings and the silver linings have been from the moment we were quarantined until now, counting up, versus constantly thinking, when is it going to be over? And this is my blessing for you tonight. The Omer teaches us a very powerful message, that to get closer to someone, to build character traits, to become a more committed human being, a more spiritual Jew, more connected to our faith, we need to focus on counting up, not just counting down. How many days till vacation? How many days? Count up. Count up how much I've achieved. And then you will realize how much more you and I, each one of us, has to go, and how many more years, blessed years, we will have. This is one of the many beautiful messages that the Korban Omer, the counting of the Omer, offers us each and every night as we count the Omer. So tonight, think about your silver linings, your counting up of the good things that have come to you and to your families throughout this course of the last few weeks. And no matter how long it's going to be, if we utilize this time to recognize that it's really a building process, then counting up will overcome this easily. But if we're constantly looking at counting down, then each moment will be agonizing and never-ending, and it's counterproductive and counterintuitive. I wish you a beautiful night. Tomorrow evening, Thursday, we have a 5 o'clock special at-home do-it-yourself Yiska kit. Can one observe Yiska at home? Many questions have been asked about that. Should one? How does one? Etc. Zoom or not? So tomorrow at 5, that's Wednesday at 5, I'll be sending in a special email to everyone with the link. I look forward to seeing you then. Have a beautiful night. Count up. Chazak ve'emotz, and be strong. Cheers.